Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Weapon X number 3, cover dated May 1995. The cover by Adam Kubert, inked by Dan Green, and very interesting colouring choices here with this green-yellow light exuding from this monstrous figure bursting out of whatever this is here, the ground or the earth. We've got these pine trees in silhouette in the background, and this red dark sky above it all, very ominous looking, and just a really dynamic pose on Logan too, as he's ripping through these tendrils and wires that are wrapping around his twisted torso. Great uplighting on the figures as well. Yeah, really nice cover, and also interesting choice to kind of put the cover logo in the background almost. It's kind of like faded and blurred there on the cover, so you really get attention paid to the central figure of Logan here. Let's open this one up to the first page, and what we have is an interesting layout here where we're looking down a camera lens at an approaching figure in a snowy mountainous background, and there is this dialogue going on between two people here regarding this figure approaching. And I like the way that Kubert has rendered this, as Logan, as it turns out, walks from one side of the camera to the other, and then centered here at the very end. And so they identify him as Logan, Weapon X himself. Take him down. Let's have a look. See our double page half splash, something like that here, in terms of the layout. And so we've action from the beginning. Whoever this figure is blasts Logan right out of his boots. That's pretty funny. And then we get this these two characters emerging from the snow where they were hidden. And this guy looks a lot like Cable, and I think there's a bit of fun being had at the expense of Cable in this particular issue. And this guy here has got an interesting design as well. Looks a little bit like Badrock. I wonder, is there some mockery of Rob Liefeld and Rob Liefeld character designs going on in this issue? So the Cable character seems to get the drop on Logan, but of course Logan pops his claws and rips him in two, completely through the body there, ripping him in half. That is a really great anchor image there. So the title of this story, The Common Right of Toads and Men, and the creative team, Larry Hama writer, Adam Kubert penciler, Dan Green and Mike Sellers inkers. So that's an indication that there was a little bit of a deadline crunch on this particular issue. I'll point out when Mike Sellers comes on board as inker, it's at the very end of the issue. It's pretty much the last 3 pages. Pat Brousseau, letterer, and Joe Rosas, colorist, with Digital Chameleon handling the computer color separations. And I think the coloring is really excellent in this particular issue. It's bright and really complements the line work of Kubert and Dan Green. So let's continue with the story here. So the action continues as this guy seems to have these extending limbs, and he grabs Logan with them. And we've got some nice tough guy dialogue from Larry Hama as well. He excels at that, of course. And Logan says to this guy, he says, "You gonna walk over to me and die, or do I gotta come to you?" And the guy responds, "Why don't we both stay right where we are?" And then Logan thinks to himself in his first person narration, "I guess I just ain't in the mood for trading snappy repartee with some bozo who traded in his humanity for a full body job in an electrolyte bath." So he's up against 2 cyborgs. And I like Adam Kubert's choice here for these horizontal right across the page layouts. So we get to see Logan ripping the hands off this cyborg, crouching down, getting ready to strike him, cuts his head right off, and then we get the aftermath of that as the cyborg just drops to the ground and Logan walks away nonchalantly. I figure it's more or less the first step in killing himself. He's talking about what it takes to or what kind of person turns themselves into a cyborg. So I'm just finishing the job for him. They sure had a heap of gall. And let's see where he is exactly, because my first guess when I was rereading this was it Alaska, because oftentimes Logan's up there in either Alaska or the Great White North of Canada, Alberta, places like that. We often find him. But where was he going at the end of the previous issue? Well, it turns out he was going to Central Europe, and he is at the gates of Wundagore Mountain, and obviously the complex there has been destroyed and is covered in snow, and Logan is making his way down to the ruined location. And we have a type of structure here that seems to include an X logo, and it's been partially destroyed. So we'll take account of Logan's first person narration here, because he basically fills us in on some background to what Wundagore Mountain functioned as in the past. It still takes my breath away, he thinks to himself, even all devastated and abandoned like it is. I can still remember the way it looked the first time I ever saw it. It looked like home. But that's when it became, and that's what it became when old Eric Lenscher took me in and saved me from myself. So that's an interesting parallel to Logan being taken in by Professor X in the regular timeline and being saved from himself. So this time it's Magneto does it. I had some of the happiest moments of my life in this place, he thinks, as he makes his way down to ground level and passes a grave marker for Wanda Maximoff and the saddest. So what was his relationship with Wanda is an interesting question there. We've had some nasty scrimmages with Apocalypse over the years. Oh, we gave as good as we got, but Lord, the price we paid. How could En Sabanur ever think that the X-Men would ever believe that he would keep his word, that Kelly Pact wasn't ever worth the magnetic media it's encoded on? You might say I had my suspicions burned into me, and here we see an outline of Logan from the past burned into this particular wall, and again a hint of things that had happened years earlier. But like old Billy Burroughs said, paranoia is simply knowing the truth. And then there's a noise and he pops his claws. That's a great 2-page spread here. I love the combination of Kubert's layouts, these long vertical panels as Logan's walking through the snow, looking around at signs of the past, and then his snapping to attention here in respect of the sound off to the left of him. And again, just a really nice combination of the line work, the black line work, and the digital coloring. Everything is in perfect complementary harmony here. Nothing is overpowering the other in respect of the artwork, so it's nicely done. So who's made the noise? Well, it turns out to be this woman. It's Carol Danvers. So it's the Age of Apocalypse version of Carol Danvers, who never became Ms. Marvel. And Logan tells us what her history is in the Age of Apocalypse in his first-person narration. She was an Air Force intelligence spook and a space agency security honcho before she started running with the Human Defense League. Ain't much that gets by her. So she's as competent as Carol Danvers ever was in the regular timeline, but just without that Ms. Marvel powers. So she's lacking those. Great page here. Great DeLuca effect of Carol somersaulting backwards and lining Logan up in her gun sights there. But this is a ridiculous ribbon that's emerging from her ponytail at the back of her head. Not very prudent for close-up fighting situations. A liability, you would say. And I just wonder, again, like I was saying earlier with that kind of parody of Rob Liefeld designs, whether this isn't a parody of what was going on in Image at the time. I'm thinking in particular of the likes of Warblade's ponytail, let's say, kind of used as a artistic effect. So either there's a little bit of mockery going on here, or Adam Kubert just likes what he can do with the ribbon for the design effect on the page. But it's a nice anchor image of Carol nonetheless. And she asks Logan here, where's your better half? The puissant and pulchritudinous Jean Grey, so the powerful and beautiful Jean Grey. And Logan here, after splitting with Jean at the end of the previous issue, says she, pause, couldn't make it. You still watching G-Dub's back? So who is G-Dub? Now, initially when I was rereading this, I thought maybe it might be a reference to G.W. Bridge from the X-Force continuity of the original. He's like a SHIELD agent in the normal timeline, a SHIELD agent in the normal timeline, and first showing up in X-Force number 1, Rob Liefeld's for X-Force number 1. But it turns out to be a different G-Dub in this issue, and we'll get to that shortly. So she says yes. She's always armed up and ready for combat. Semper vivit in armis. We don't want Apocalypse's bully boys running a wet mission on him, do we? That is to say, killing him. So who is this character? And he's up here in the tower, never comes down, never leaves. I like the storytelling here where we've got a steady shot on the tower, and Kubert has divided it into 2 panels here. So we've got them closer to us and they're walking towards the tower with Carol pointing to it. And then even here's a third panel division, and they're walking up the steps into the tower. Looks like he meant for another one, maybe for another piece of dialogue, but Hama held back on that. And then we switch to London just for a short bit, a little interlude in London. We've got those refugees from Apocalypse's US that were ferried over with the great airlift in the previous issue. And one of them here is making a presentation to the Human High Council of a recording he made of Apocalypse's infinites killing and culling human beings. So Mariko Yoshida says, the Human High Council thanks you for your testimony, young man, and you have our deepest sympathy. And this is Bolivar Trask, who's married to Moira MacTaggart. And he says, what we have just witnessed is only a preview of what awaits the rest of humanity if Logan fails in his mission. And Moira says he will not fail, Bolivar. He knows that the preemptive strike is our last chance to stop Apocalypse. And that was the source of division between Jean Grey and Logan at the end of the previous issue, and why they've split up. They fundamentally disagree on that point. So we've got some division within the Human High Council. This is Brian Braddock here, and he is he's somebody that Wolverine has doubts about in terms of his loyalties, but he seems to be completely gung-ho for nuking Apocalypse and wants to be included in the mission as well. He says here, I won't be left behind. I want to be there when Logan delivers the means by which our airships will deliver their lethal engines of destruction unto Lord N. Sabanur in his own domain. I've a modicum of faith in our diminutive mutant friend, you see. God help him. And Mariko prays God help the rest of humanity if he fails. It's an interesting layout here with this trio on one side of the panel, an open border here, and Mariko and Emma Frost over here on the other side. I like it. Interesting, thoughtful panel layouts from Adam Kubert throughout the series and this particular issue. So finally, Carol, we switch back to Wundagore Mountain. Carol and Logan make their way up the steps inside the tower, and they're up at the top of the tower, which is open to the air. And who do they find there? Who's the G-Dub? Except for Gateway. So that was a surprise. And this is an interesting version of Gateway versus the one we're familiar with from the regular continuity. In the regular continuity, he's recently attached himself to Generation X, to the Massachusetts school, where Emma Frost and Banshee are training the next generation of potentially X-Men. And here he is in Age of Apocalypse reality, and he is surrounded by all these television and computer screens and radios. And we have these snatches of quotations written over the art. And it's an interesting selection. So Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani is the opening of Psalm 22. My God, why have you forsaken me? Which are also words quoted and uttered by Jesus dying on the cross. And then we have once when midnight smote the air, eunuchs ran through hell and met. And that's W.B. Yeats. That's a poem of W.B. Yeats on the reception of the Playboy of the Western World in 1907 here in Dublin in the National Theatre. The really, what would you say, like negative reception of it. And W.B. Yeats thought the audience were Philistines and wrote a poem about it, which begins this way. And then there's a quotation from Star Trek, Scotty, but Captain, without the dilithium crystals, we can't get away from whatever or get anywhere at all. And then lyrics from Guantanamera, soy hombre sincero de donde crece la palma. Interesting selection of different quotations and kind of giving a clue as to maybe what Gateway's up to. I also like the angle here. I like the way that Adam Kubert gives us some interesting angles on faces that keeps the art dynamic. So we've got this slight upshot on Gateway, and Carol whispers to Logan. It's as if he's trying to absorb it all before it goes away forever. So Gateway absorbing the best of human culture, religion, poetry, pop culture, and music as well. But Logan interrupts. Yeah, well, study hall has just ended. Let's go, Gateway. It's up to you and me to save the world. And Gateway doesn't respond. Another great upshot here on Gateway's face. And Kubert really captures how out of it and Gateway is, just paying no attention to Logan, even as he's shouting in his face. And Carol says, it's no use, Logan. He never answers. But Logan has got a way to get Gateway's attention, and it is to pull the plug on him. So he destroys the bank of computer screens, and then Gateway comes to. Oh, it's you, Logan. And he greets him in Japanese, how are you? And in German asks him to give him his hand. I really like this from Kubert as well, just this angle where we're looking from the perspective of Gateway's toes up to his face, his grinning face. And I like the way that he's twisted his toes, or like he has his toes moving here. That's a really nice idea. And it's something that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but it just makes the art look that bit more interesting. So then Gateway touches Logan, and in Logan's first person narration, we get an explanation of what happens. It's as if slow, warm electricity was flowing out of me. The events of the past few weeks flashed through my head like the picture cards in a riffled deck. And somehow I know that they're all being perused and studied in a frozen moment of time, courtesy of Gateway's cosmic freeze frame switch. So really interesting anchor image there. We've got Apocalypse. We've got Logan's own face there. Or hold on a second, no, that's not Logan, that's Donald Pierce. And that is, what would I say, like relevant for what's coming up shortly in the rest of the issue. And here we've got Logan and Jean Grey, where he was trying to stop her from flying off to North America, but eventually decided to let her go. Yeah, interesting. So a kind of a recycling, a recycled collage of artwork from the previous couple of issues from Kubert. So interesting design. And so Logan asks him, where did you pick that trick up? He says he found it in an ancient Tibetan manuscript. Really works, doesn't it? As for piloting, so now Gateway knows everything and why Logan's there. As for piloting the lead airship in a preemptive nuclear strike against Apocalypse, I have to pass on that, he says. So that's why Logan went to Wundagore Mountain for the Human High Council. And that's who he's looking for, because in the previous issue, the one ship that had the targeting systems for the nuclear strike was destroyed by Donald Pierce and his team of cyborgs. So this is plan B. But Gateway isn't interested because he says, beaucoup bad karma, mucho negativity, and razón numero uno, it's not my job, man. Least I can do is teleport you back where you came from. So Gateway doesn't want to be involved. And so he kind of swings his bull roarer, but is interrupted by a projectile trajectory. But it was skewed by his space-time warp. Carol here wondering what it was. And look at this. It's the two cyborgs from the opening of the issue. And this really does look like Cable. It looks like a parody of Cable. And they've grafted each other together. Mangle and I had to do some on-the-spot grafting to get mobile again, but now we're cooking. So look at this monstrosity that's arrived up the stairs and dripping water from the snow as well. So Logan and Carol go into action, and this again I feel is on the nose. Logan the Cable, so he says he'll get it, but I feel it's like a little jibe at who this character is patterned on. Here's the Cable on the ground. So this is great. Like, Carol drops a grenade into the open neck of the Mangle cyborg, and Logan pulls the Cable taut behind the heel of that cyborg as well, and then they fall down the stairs. And of course the grenade is in the torso now of the second cyborg there as they topple down the stairs. Carol counts down the explosion, and they blow up, and we see little bits of them flying up the stairs there, including these ribs as well. So that's really well done by Kubert. Really great storytelling. So Gateway still isn't interested in joining the mission. He says he's no bombardier, no mere cog in the war machine. I am the repository of the knowledge of humanity, the living index of every hard-earned scrap of information gleaned in our ascent from mindless savagery. Mine is the catalogue of all the fishes in the sea, all the creatures of the earth, all the birds of the... And then he stops. That's no bird. And then here we have this cyborg dropping from the air straight down. And here's Donald Pierce. So we thought he was killed in the previous issue, but he's still alive. Interesting panel layouts as well, making for more dynamism in the drawings. This is a funny bit here, the furry dice in his cockpit as well, as he dive bombs down towards the mountain. Yeah, that's really nice. So Carol's blasting away there, and Logan's got a plan. He wants Gateway to use his bull roarer, his whirligig, and he tells Gateway that he'll tell him where to teleport. So where does he go? Into the bomber, which blasts through the top of the tower there, which is where Gateway would have been. So now they're in the fuselage of the bomber, and of course Pierce is surprised, as is Logan, to see him still alive. This is a great little panel here where Logan punches his claws through the back of Pierce's pilot seat, and Pierce just ducks down. That's really nicely done. And then he comes out from around the pilot seat and launches himself at Logan. That's a great shot of Logan with just the anger and rage on his face and the blood dripping out of his nose and down onto his lips and off his chin. Really great work. So this other character is trying to get in contact with Pierce. Now we switch from the Dan Green inks to Mike Sellers to the end of the issue, and we've got a really action-packed conclusion to the issue here. So that cyborg comes through this window of the bomber as Gateway's piloting it, and Logan, as she's coming into the plane, guts her and swings her out the other window. and so she screams as she falls to her death. Then Pierce gets ready to take out Logan. Carol intervenes, pushes him and herself out of the bomber, and Pierce says that he'll see her dead before they hit the ground, but she says, "You lose, Pierce." So she pops a pin on a grenade and starts the countdown to explosion. Is she going to get away with her life? No. She blows herself up and Pierce. So it's a somber ending to this particular issue. Gateway asks Logan, that's a great top-down shot here as Logan's looking out the door of the plane. Was that an explosion down there? And he turns around. That was the clutch hitter coming through with a grand slam. Carol was always she was into baseball. So a baseball metaphor. Oh, where is this armada, Logan? So Gateway's had to think again about what Logan wanted him to do. Paris, that's the secret staging area. So you decided to do it? No, Gateway says, but I'm going to give the Human High Council a chance to convince me. Fair enough. And Logan responds, have to do. So this is a great kind of done in one chapter with a beginning, a middle and an end. An introduction to the Carol Danvers of the Age of Apocalypse universe. We get a little bit of characterization with her, and there's some feeling then with her sacrifice here at the end of the issue, and also a really, really intriguing version of Gateway as well, like Kubert's design for Gateway, and also the way that Larry Hama writes him. It's nicely done. So next, to destroy an empire. Yeah, Larry Hama's section of Age of Apocalypse with Adam Kubert, Weapon X, is a really, really excellent series so far, in my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments to this video. And if you enjoyed the video, please like it on YouTube. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.